Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into a new episode of The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. The first thing I need you to do is hit that like button, hit the subscribe button for me as well. If you're already one of our loyal subscribers, please hit the notification bell so you can be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. I am here each week to break down the latest of Crimson Tide football recruiting news. Now, this episode of The Process, we are going to break down the Crimson Tide's biggest recruiting weekend of the season up until this point of the 2022-2023 football season, with the Crimson Tide set to host a long list of top recruits in multiple recruiting classes, including 2 5-star recruits who are not committed to any program for official visits. So there's no time to waste. Let's dive right into things today, starting with Keon Keely, the 2023 5-star defensive end out of Berkeley Prep High School in Tampa, Florida, who will take an official visit to Alabama on this weekend. Of course, ever since he decommitted from the Fighting Irish in August, the Crimson Tide have been one of the favorites to land him. You can arguably say that the Crimson Tide have the biggest, especially had the biggest advantage when he first decommitted from the Fighting Irish. But when he decommitted from Notre Dame, he did not just jump over to Alabama's board. So with that being in mind, you sort of felt like, hey, there may be some other teams in the mix, and there were some other teams. And those teams were the Florida Gators and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Both programs have hosted Keely this season. The Buckeyes got him on campus for an official visit recently. The Tide will get him on campus this week, and like I said, for that official, and that official visit could help the Crimson Tide seal things up in my mind, because I still feel they have an advantage, but the Ohio State Buckeyes are trending. And Keon Keely's recruitment, they are definitely in a better position than they were when he first decommitted from Notre Dame, and looks as if the Crimson Tide were the clear-cut favorite for him, but I still feel the Tide has a bit of an advantage over the competition. We can take a look at the Gators and the Buckeyes. A good visit, great atmosphere in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday night. Also, he already has a great relationship with Alabama's coaching staff, so that good visit. Great atmosphere for that Texas A&M game, night game. Pretty sure a lot of people are ready for this matchup just based on what happened on the off season with Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban. So Keon Keely will be in Tuscaloosa for the first time since decommitting from the Fighting Irish on this weekend. He'll be joined by fellow 5-star recruit Deuce Robinson, a 2023 5-star tight end out of Arizona, who you may not have heard a lot about in terms of Alabama recruiting him, but the Crimson Tide are definitely in the mix. You have heard about teams like Texas, Georgia, especially USC, with them being a West Coast guy. USC has done a great job recruiting ever since Lincoln Riley became their head coach, hitting the recruiting trail, hitting the transfer portal, and he's the guy who they have their eyes on. But like we all know, guys who follow Alabama football recruiting and Alabama fans who follow Crimson Tide recruiting as well, it only takes one visit for Alabama to get a guy on campus. Things could change pretty quickly. So we'll see what happens after this visit. This is one to keep your eyes on, because things can quickly change. We've seen things change in guys' recruitments in the past when the Crimson Tide get them on campus. But in terms of what Robinson brings to the table, arguably one of the top tight ends in this 2023 class. You can make an argument that he is the nation's top tight end, especially as a receiving threat. He's one of those hybrid guys, as we continue to see more and more tight ends come out who just are comfortable lining up at wide receivers. Their high schools basically use them at wide receivers throughout their high school careers, and that is something that you see from Robinson, which is what you guys are seeing on film right now. So he will be in Tuscaloosa. He will also be joined by a couple of guys who are verbally committed to other programs, and one of those guys is Kelby Collins, the 2023 4-star defensive end out of Gardendale High School in Gardendale, Alabama, who's verbally committed to the Florida Gators. Those of you who have followed Collins' recruitment, you know he grew up an Alabama fan. His mom and dad were Alabama fans. Going back to his commitment ceremony, his dad made it clear that he was not taking down any of his Alabama gear at their home. So you know that they are still Alabama fans. I'm pretty sure they are excited to get down to Tuscaloosa to enjoy that great atmosphere. But the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach Freddie Roach has built a great relationship with Collins, a great relationship with his family. They are hoping that they can possibly change his mind by getting him on campus this weekend. Of course, his recruitment is not totally done until he signs a national letter of intent with the Florida Gators. So Collins will be in Tuscaloosa on this weekend. He will be joined by another SEC commit Burnett and Centurion Perkins, who's verbally committed to the Ole Miss Rebels. We all know how involved Alabama has been in his recruitment as of late, even going back to last summer where many people expected him to possibly flip his commitment from the Rebels to the Crimson Tide after he made some pretty interesting changes to his Twitter profile by changing his profile to a picture where he had on Alabama gear during an Alabama visit. But he will get back to Tuscaloosa on this weekend as the Crimson Tide continues to try to make a push for the talented athlete out of Mississippi. He's a dual threat type of an athlete. That's why he's listed as an athlete, although the Crimson Tide will most likely use him as a linebacker at the next level. I feel that this is his natural position. He plays some running back in high school right now, but I think the way that he plays linebacker is really impressive in space. Comes downhill with a lot of physicality, as you guys can see. Plays well in space, which is something that translates over from the offensive side of football to the defensive side of the ball. So the Crimson Tide really like Perkins. Like I said, they like him as a linebacker, great finisher of tackles, as you guys can see, especially in the open field. Jaren Hamilton, a 2023 four-star wide receiver, will also be in Tuscaloosa on this weekend. He has an official visit scheduled. He will take an official visit to Alabama later this season when the Crimson Tide hosts the Auburn Tigers for the Iron Bowl. An opportunity to catch up with Hamilton earlier this season, which is why you guys are seeing some of those highlights on your screen right now. Very explosive wide receiver, a guy who can easily create separation at the line of scrimmage, has that game-breaking speed that Alabama continues to go after at the wide receiver position. Currently has a top 7. When we look at his top 7, it includes schools like USC. Surprisingly, the Gators are not included in his top 7. Are not really active in his recruitment, although he's from Gainesville, Florida, and the Gators are not involved in this recruitment at the moment, but USC is. Ole Miss is a school that's standing out to him at the moment. Of course, the Crimson Tide wide receivers coach Harmon Wiggins and Nick Saban have continued to build a relationship with this speedy wide receiver who's taken his first visit to Tuscaloosa of the season, but he will be back in Alabama when the Crimson Tide take on the Auburn Tigers for the Iron Bowl. Continues to be a guy to watch out for, although the Crimson Tide have verbal commitments from wide receiver prospects. Malik Benson, who's a 2023 JUCO wide receiver prospect, also have commitments from high school wide receivers and Jalen Hale and Cole Adams. Jaren Hamilton is a guy who they will take if he wants to commit to them here in the future. But those are some of the top 2023 targets who will be on campus this weekend. Several Alabama commits will be on campus as well. We'll bring up a graphic here that shows the Alabama commits who are expected to be in attendance of Richard Young, Justice Haynes, Dylan Lonergan, Miles McVay, Raquez McElderry, Eli Holstein, Ty Lockwood, Cole Adams, and a lot more, including some recruits who are verbally committed to the Crimson Tide in the 2024 recruiting class. We can take a look at guys like Jalen and Bachway, and also looking at Martavius Collins, who's a 2024 four-star tight end out of Rome High School in Georgia, who's verbally committed to Alabama. So the Crimson Tide having these guys on campus this weekend could go a long way with guys like Keely and Robinson and some other top 2024 prospects who I will talk about before the end of this show. But I think this will go a long way with them building relationship with guys that Alabama is still going after here in this 2023 and 2024 recruiting class. But to close out this show, I do want to focus on the 2024 recruiting class a little bit and talk about some top 2024 recruits who will be in Tuscaloosa, because it is going to be talent across the board in Tuscaloosa on this weekend. So we're going to talk about a couple of 2024 guys. No, one of those guys is 5-star defensive back Ellis Robinson, who currently attends IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. He will take another trip to Alabama on this weekend. He last visited the University of Alabama when the Crimson Tide hosted their Champions Cookout in July. After that visit, he spoke highly of the Crimson Tide. Every time he gets on campus, he speaks highly of Alabama. But when he got on campus for the last time, he said he felt that it takes a special player to join Alabama football's different culture after that particular visit. He said he has a great relationship with Alabama's cornerbacks coach Ellis Robinson. He said he has been solid with him and his family throughout his recruitment so far. During that last visit, he had an opportunity to talk with multiple Alabama commits, including Jalen and Bachway and Caleb Downs. And like I said earlier, he said they just wanted him to know why Alabama is the place to be. Got to spend some time with Tyler Booker, an Alabama freshman who he has a great relationship with. Both of those guys are from Connecticut. But he also went on to say that he is learning it takes a special player to go to Alabama. It's a culture there that's different than any other school that he's been to. So he's going to make a return trip to Tuscaloosa on this weekend. He'll be joined by another 5-star 2024 recruit in KJ Bolden, who's also really high on the Tide, has a close relationship with Alabama's defensive backs and safeties coach Charles Kelly, who was a Georgia area recruiter for the Crimson Tide, along with some areas in Alabama as well, specifically in East Alabama. But some of the things that Bolden said about Alabama last time I talked to him, he said that they are definitely one of his top schools. He's going to drop his top schools pretty soon. The last time I talked with him, he said he had a close relationship with Harmon Wiggins and Charles Kelly. Said he feels Nick Saban is the GOAT. He's a legendary. He said he's legendary. He would not mind playing for a coach like that. So KJ Bolden is another top recruit who will be in Tuscaloosa on this weekend. Listed as an athlete on most recruiting site because he plays wide receiver and defensive back for Bruford, and he's talented on both sides of the ball. Reminds me of another former Bruford Wolf who not verbally committed to Alabama, who plays for the Crimson Tide right now, in Isaiah Bunn. For those of you who did not follow Isaiah Bunn's recruitment, he played a similar role to Bolden when he played for the Wolves during his high school career. He played on both sides of the football, played wide receiver, played defensive back, and really looked like a D1 prospect on both sides of the football. KJ Bolden is following in his footsteps and looks like a 5-star recruit on both sides of the football with his speed and his athleticism and the way they plays the football as a safety, because I think he's a really talented safety prospect in the 2024 recruiting class. But there will also be plenty of other 2024 recruits to watch on this weekend, including Jamarion Burnett, a 2023 4-star running back out of Andalusia High School in Andalusia, Alabama. We had an opportunity to watch him earlier in the season as well. Seemed to be really high on Alabama and Auburn. It seemed as if the in-state schools were pushing for him the hardest. Of course, that was before the college coaches were able to contact 2024 recruits. So I'm pretty sure his recruitment is a bit wider right now, including Alabama and Auburn. But he's a physical running back, a big running back, about 6'2", 200 pounds plus, who will return to Alabama on this weekend and take an unofficial visit. Daniel Calhoun is another guy to pay attention to, a 4-star offensive lineman out of Georgia who will make a return trip to Tuscaloosa. Visited Alabama earlier this season. Calhoun is projected to be one of the top offensive linemen in the 2024 recruiting class. Another guy just to know. But the list of recruits attending this game is very long. You guys can check out that full list on our website. But wanted to give some breakdown and put your guys' eyes on a couple of guys who will be watching on this weekend. But that would do it for this episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com so you can pick up a subscription to our website. And before you leave this show, be sure to pick up the Touchdown Alabama app in the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device, or in the Google Play Store if you have an Android device. With that app, breaking news notifications can be sent to your mobile device. As always, I am Justin Smith, the Scouting and Recruiting Analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.